Hello, everybody. This is Board Game Chats. I'm Myron.
And I'm Chris. On today's episode, we're talking to Howard and Liane Hayes. They are a board game couple that board games together. How are you guys?
We're good, thank you.
Good.
Yeah, good.
Thanks for having
to be
us.
here. Thanks
for having us, coming on the show. We really appreciate it. We are excited to have you guys and hear about your board game journey and your lives together and everything. So why don't we start with a little bit about yourselves? Liane, why don't you start us off? Tell us something about yourself.
Okay. So my name's Liane. I'm married to Howard, obviously. We have 2 girls and live in Cambridge. Yeah, live in Cambridge, Ontario. And yeah, I got into board gaming along with Howard, I don't know, maybe, would you say 6 years ago, 7 years ago? I think it's, yeah.
Yeah, 6, about 2014,
and
2015.
friends of ours
there,
were really into board games and sort of introduced us to, I mean, we've always played board games, but literally just kind of became a hobby when our friends invited us to play Ticket to Ride, I think it was, and then we just jumped on board and we couldn't stop. And more so Howard than myself, but and we'll get into that later. But yeah, I just enjoyed the ride. But yeah, so that's right. Yeah. So
I'm sorry, Liane.
It's
a question I have. So, like, y'all have been playing for 14 years, and a friend invited y'all in. But how long? Okay, so that's when you all started, or that when you started getting serious about board games. But how long was your friend, sort of like, scouting y'all and to see that if y'all were like the right talent to bring into the fold? Like,
I don't even think they had a choice because we were like their closest friends. So it's like, okay, you guys have to be on board with us. We didn't have a choice. But that was okay with us. But no, it just kind of goes really, especially with having kids, it's just, one of those things where it's a great hobby to have, especially when you do have young ones and you can kind of involve them a little bit as well, right? So, but yeah, before that, I mean, I always dabbled a little bit. I played Dungeons and Dragons when I was a kid, of course, like most of us did in the 80s.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But no, about me, I worked in the film industry for years. I was an actor for years and years, and I traveled to the West Coast and then came back to Toronto. And then I taught for quite a few years at the Toronto Film School. And then once we sort of settled in Cambridge and decided to have a family, I sort of got out of that industry. And now I work in the metaphysical industry as a tarot card reader, and I coach people and help them move through transitions in their life, like healing from, say, illnesses or deaths in the family to major big decisions people are making. So it's kind of an interesting mix with the board gaming because tarot cards are kind of like a little bit of a, it's got that art feel and that visual aspect to it. So kind of goes hand in hand, I guess.
Right,
and other than that, just, having fun being a mom. We have one of our kids has autism, so that's quite challenging, but very rewarding. And wrote a book about it a few years ago, which was quite interesting to go through that process.
Wait, hold on a second. You're an author. You're a distinguished author as well, as a coach and a tarot card reader who's helping people get through, like, intact with their spirit through this plague that we're going through. Tell me more about how awesome Liane is.
Oh,
Howard,
Howard, I mean, Howard, honestly, like Howard, he did the visuals on it. He kind of put it together too. So he's pretty good at stuff like that. But that literally was that was a journey just to kind of, I don't know, when you're dealing with something like that, like a big, unknown, like autism, like having a child on the spectrum. For me, it was more of just the therapy was doing the book because it allowed us an outlet to share with others our experiences. And I think at the end of it, what it does is it opens everybody else's eyes to the disorder, right? And shows everyone sort of what we're going through. And then everybody wins because we all learn together. So it wasn't expected. It just kind of happened. So.
Is it a book about your experiences or in general?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it a book that anyone can get? Is it
on Amazon.com? It's kind of a weird. It's called Embracing Autism.
Embracing Autism. Awesome. I did not know that. I will definitely look that up. It's a subject
like
that
I said,
I'm fascinated with.
Is it? Well, we can talk about it anytime, Chris.
Cool.
Because I can talk about it till the cows come home too. It's just a fascinating subject. But because of the platform that we designed the book through, am I right by saying this, Howard, that it's available on Amazon.com, not .ca? Because the company's
That's
American
right.
that we put the book together through. So we don't actually make money on this book. It wasn't something we did to profit on. It was literally just a project of love. So
right.
I believe PDF version's also available on the App Store, the iTunes bookstore. If that's still a thing. I don't even know if that's still a thing anymore, but I don't know.
So I'll share
it used to be.
to you, Leanne. I actually studied neuropsych-based school psychology.
Oh,
and
really?
So I'm holding myself back from like getting jargony and but as I'm sure you know, the spectrum is vast. And so like in a school setting, we get like, and my hands are like very close together.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I can see that.
You know, very, very close together. And so we only get like a sliver, which is if the family survives all the challenges and the child is in the school system, then okay, here's what you do. Literally by law, the minimum things you need to do in order to keep getting federal aid, because we're supposed to be providing supports for children. And I'm sure I'm speaking to the choir right now. In the language I'm using, also the minimum viable, only to get money, etc. So thank you for sharing that. But keep going, Leanne. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I don't really have much more to add. Just kind of giving you tidbits of me and who I am. But so it's been an interesting journey. It's been a crazy ride, but totally blessed, right? Like just love the ride. And she's just well, both are kids, but she's just wow, that's a whole nother conversation.
I've met both your daughters, and they're both lovely people. They are wonderful.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you.
And they play board games, so I mean,
we got to get the kids into the gaming, right? Actually, that's to bring it back to gaming, like board games have been a really therapeutic aspect of our time with Rhea, is our daughter with autism, because it gives you a platform to be interactive. Like even though she might not play the whole game out because of her attention span, or she might not get as committed as our 10-year-old, it's still an awesome platform for her just to dabble in that back and forth and that interaction in a place that's outside of her, right? It's not about her, it's about the game.
That's very, very interesting. I have some questions about that, but maybe we should just introduce Howard. Howard, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? We can probably talk to Leanne for an hour and then Howard for an hour, but you guys have to share the stage. So Howard, why don't you tell us about yourself? I know you have an interesting background.
Yeah, I was going to say, my name's Howard. That's it. I'm Howard, and obviously I'm Leanne's other half, and very proud father of two girls. And you can probably tell from the accent, I'm from the UK originally. I moved to Canada in 2004 and met Leanne, obviously, and we decided to get married and do all that good stuff. So and the rest is history, as they say. So. Career-wise, I'm a licensed insolvency trustee, so I help people in financial difficulty to go through either personal bankruptcies or consumer proposals. So, but most of all, I'm a husband and proud father.
And board gamer, of course.
And board gamer,
yes.
Let me just add.
Gamer, yeah.
Avid? No. How do you say that word? Avid board gamer. Absolutely.
Yeah,
like the collection that you have in that basement is unreal.
Yeah, my introduction to board games was a little bit different. I played a couple of games when I was a kid. I was a child of HeroQuest, so I'm sure a lot of listeners are probably familiar with that game. It was very popular in the 80s, and I just loved playing that game. And I love the aspect of being able to create your own adventures and do things like that. And I always sort of had that interest in board games, throughout my childhood. As I got into early adulthood, I kind of got away from it, never paid any attention to it. And, we'd have the odd game of Yahtzee or whatever with Leanne's parents or something like that, from time to time, but nothing above and beyond that until, as Leanne mentioned, friends of ours, they were into board games. And I guess it just came up in conversation one night that, that I used to play HeroQuest and, there was another game called Totopoly, which is a very interesting game. And we just got talking about it, and they said, well, hey, we've got a bit of a collection of games, how about we bring a couple of games over one night and we'll play them. So that's how they roped us into it. And the first game, as Leanne said, that we played was Ticket to Ride. And our eyes were like on stalks. We were like, wow, this is amazing. Like, this is just nothing like what I was expecting. And we had so much fun. And literally, I think the next day we went to our local hobby board game store, and I walked out with probably like $200 worth of games. I was like a kid in a candy store, and probably made a bunch of mistakes actually buying some games that probably in hindsight were a little bit maybe too ambitious for a brand new gamer. But it was the start of definitely
we've
an
all been
obsession
there
at that
with
point.
the
So
buying the too ambitious games.
Yeah.
One of my first purchases was Arkham Horror. That was a lot to learn by yourself when you're setting it up, and it's like maybe the second game you've learned.
Well, I remember being in the board game store and saying, I want to find something like HeroQuest, because obviously, I was kind of drawing back to those childhood memories of playing that game. And I knew that wasn't a thing at that time. You wouldn't get a copy now. Well, at that time, you couldn't get a copy unless you were willing to pay hundreds of dollars on eBay. So, of course, I think I picked up a copy of Descent. And thought, oh yeah, this sounds familiar. Like 4 adventurers going into dungeons and fighting all the monsters. And got it home and just realized how big that game was. And bearing in mind, at this point I probably hadn't played a board game in 20 years. So to pick that game up as my first game was probably maybe a little bit too ambitious. So I was like, well, this is a little bit more difficult than that Ticket to Ride game. So I kind of learned, maybe there's other games that I should maybe start off with that might be a little bit more of a simpler set to begin with, and then we'll kind of get back into the more ambitious games,
So
as we
here's
get
my
more
question.
into it. So
do you have Descent in your collection still?
Mm-hmm.
It got traded.
No, I did sell it actually. I sold it away at some point. And it was, I think, if I still had it now, I would be more interested in playing it now. But it wasn't really a game for Leanne. I think I bought it because it interested me, because I was remembering my childhood. But then, I kind of realized, well, if Leanne's enjoying playing these games as well, then really we should be buying games that we're both interested in and both playing. Because if I sort of said to her, let's play Descent, I could see that look on her face, like, really?
My eyes glazed over.
Yeah, so I knew after 1 or 2 times of trying to play the game, it just wasn't going to work. So so we sold it. But I'm sure if we were at a friend's house or something one night and someone had a copy and they really wanted to play it, sure, I'd play it again. I'd probably enjoy playing it now more than I did back then. But
well, thanks for including me in the choice of games you're buying now, honey, because he is good at that. He's always thinking about, okay, will Leanne like this? And it makes a difference because then you're both invested, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, when we was in the board game store, we kind of primarily went there because we kind of, I think, initially thought that this was going to be my hobby. But when we were in the board game store, we were kind of looking at, pulling every game off the shelf and looking at them. And there was one game in particular, I think it was a Terry Pratchett game. It's called The Witches. And so, of course, as Leanne mentioned earlier, she's in the metaphysical field now for her career. So as soon as she saw Witches, her face lit up and she's like, oh, there's a board game about witches. So of course we had to buy it.
Awesome.
And we brought that home. But that was actually a pretty cool game,
have
wasn't
it in
it? It was
our
a
collection.
cooperative game, but yeah, we still have that one. Yeah, that one survived. But I think it made her realize as well that actually this isn't just a hobby that Howard's going to be into. This is going to be a hobby that, that she's going to be interested in as well. So we kind of really came through it all together, didn't we? Like we.
I mean, I'm the only one with Kickstarters right now waiting to be delivered.
Very
good.
good.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think the so like I think that's a really, really important aspect of like board gaming. Is like you get games for yourself, but you get games that you want to play with other people. And if they live, in the same household, that's awesome. I know when Chris introduces me to games, his collection and knowledge is vastly superior to mine. But when we get together the game, I say, hey, Chris, look. So this is the kind of game that like I can't play. My time limit is like 45 minutes. Now, and I only give requirements to Chris because like he has the knowledge to do it. But like Chris is thinking even before I say it, what can we get through with Myron? And what can we get through after Myron leaves with his wife Anna? Because she's down for the 9-hour session, whereas Myron wants an hour and a half to get like maybe 3 individual games in and then like to go take a nap. And so like you begin to like gauge. This is why I was saying earlier, I was like, all right, so like how long was your friend like planning to, as Howard says, rope y'all into board games? And so like Ticket to Ride, I can just imagine the strategy like with strings drawn on the map and like different people. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, you guys have both broken people into board gaming. What's the strategy to like getting that person like, I know that person's a gamer. I think I heard they played D&D back in the day, or HeroQuest. Like, what's your strategy for like bringing people in?
Well, I think it's you nailed it. I think you start with the shorter games. I think it's rarer to find people that you can jump into a 3-hour heavy game with, right? Like, I don't know. Like,
especially
I think
if they're new to
most
gaming.
people you can, like if it's quick and it's not too complicated, and then you kind of go from there. It's like you just kind of start the wheel going slowly and see how far you can spin it.
I think you've got to understand who that person is as well. Like there are some friends that we have that when they come over, if it's a get together, that they're non-stop chatterboxes, and they're very sort of social and engaging in terms of just wanting to be there to have fun. So trying to get them to play like a 3-hour game of Terraforming Mars is probably going to be impossible. It's not going to be the game for them. Whereas maybe playing a game of Werewolf might be more appropriate, right? Because you can still engage with each other and chit chat and still talk about whatever you were doing that day, whilst at the same time still playing and enjoying the game, right? So whereas if you've got someone who's actually expressing an interest and maybe looking at your game collection and saying, oh, what's this one? Or tell me more about this. This one looks cool. This looks like a science fiction game. Tell me more about that one. And then you can maybe sort of think, okay, maybe we can test this person with a little bit more of a deeper game if they're showing an interest in it, right? If they're not showing any interest in it, I don't think I would go there, right? I'd keep it to the
I think it also depends on.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, and it also depends on the type of gathering. Like if you've got people that depends how much they're going to be drinking too. Right? People over having a big bonfire and stuff. You're like, well, maybe we'll just do some fun games like Junkyard or Junkard or something like. We've had nights where we know that it's only going to be those fun sort of party games, right?
Yeah. playing Junkart when you're drunk is awesome.
I can't say I've done that. I love Junkart.
It's a disaster.
I might try
It's
that
awesome.
actually. Maybe this weekend.
Oh.
So yeah, I like knowing your audience. That's really important, or at least as best as you can. And for me, part of that is theme, right? The theme matters. Like you said, you know, there was a game about
Absolutely.
witches, and all of a sudden that clicked with you, and you saw her face light up. It was like, oh, that's really, really good. That's how I choose a lot of games. It's like, all right, tell me something about what you like and what you know, and then, you know, I'm gonna be on the hunt for a game that I think is gonna work for you. Myron is a big role-playing game person, and I had Role Player, the game Role Player, and I wanted to show him that, but I was nervous because it's a good, you know, with 4 players, it's a good 2-hour game. And we got him out to one of our local cons, and that's when I was like, "He can't go home and have a nap now; it's too far."
See,
and I was like, "Let's do this." See, yeah. So I had all those strings on the map, like got all the lines together, and I had him hooked. He went out and bought it like the next week.
Yes. Yes.
So what you're saying is if you want to play a game for more than 45 minutes with Myron, you got to make sure there isn't a bed within a half a kilometer radius or something like.
And the theme does matter. The time, the theme, and know your audience. So do you guys? How does gaming actually fit into your lives as a couple? Like, we can talk about your kids in a bit, but I mean, do you guys play games just the two of you? Do you only play with friends? How does that work? And
oh yeah.
In addition to that, I also want to hear how the pandemic maybe has changed that. Ooh.
Yeah. Wow.
We definitely play games together, and like we sort of alluded to earlier, when we're buying games now, particularly me, I think I probably buy more of our collection than Liane, but I'm very, very mindful now of making sure that if I'm going to spend my money on a game, that it's definitely something that Liane's going to want to play, because 80% of the games I play Liane will be playing as well, right? So it's got to be something that I know that she's going to enjoy as well. So I've kind of shifted from those early days of buying games that I wanted to buy because I wanted it in the collection, to making sure that, okay, I want to buy this game because we want it in our collection and we're going to play it. It's become more of a we thing rather than an I thing from my perspective anyway.
And I mean, really, with the pandemic, we are gaming a lot more, just the two of us. Like, we used to have every Monday night was game night. We'd have the same people come by and we'd game every week. Well, obviously we can't do that with the pandemic. So it is mostly us now. I mean, we do have our close family friends that come by and game with us a little bit, and they were here this afternoon. But yeah, it's changed dramatically. But even before the pandemic, like, usually I would say once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, you and I would sit down of a Sunday or Saturday afternoon and just play a bunch of games back to back, instead of watching a movie or going out. It's just how we enjoy spending a nice afternoon together. So
yeah, there was a time where we didn't watch hardly any TV shows on Netflix and stuff. Friends would sort of say, "Oh, have you watched such and such a show?" And we'd be like, "God, I haven't even watched TV in 3 weeks."
Trying to get through a campaign or something. We get into the campaign board games, and we'd want to get to the end and see how it finished. And it's like that was our drama series for the week, right?
Yeah, that's a good point, because there's a lot of people that. Yeah, absolutely, Chris, and that's one of the things that board games, sometimes we talked about it even in the show, that some of them can be long, some of them can be short, but it's really about the time that you're spending. Like, what is entertainment, right? So, like, some people may be watching TV or listening to music or watching shows and things of that nature, and it's just like board gaming is exactly that. It's an experience. It's just entertainment. You're choosing to be a part of.
Yeah, you're right. Your entertainment time is almost like a budget in itself, right? It's like, how am I going to budget the hours that I can allocate towards entertainment? Because husband and wife, we're parents to kids, and we both have jobs to do, and there's only so much time during the week that you can allocate towards just entertainment, whether it is watching a TV show or playing a board game or whatever you choose to do for your entertainment, and watching sports, and so you have to pick and choose carefully, how you're going to spend that time. And it obviously makes it so much easier to make those decisions when you have a partner that's fully engaged as you are in that particular hobby. I think I wouldn't have played half as many games if Liane just wasn't interested, and vice versa. If she was the only one interested in it, if I didn't care about board games, then she wouldn't be playing half as much as what she does now, right? So, but the fact that we both enjoy it equally as much, I think, really helps. And I think that's fortunate, because I think there are people in relationships that are, probably, do struggle to get to game nights and game groups, and that's all they can do because their partner won't play games, or maybe they don't have a partner, maybe they're a single person, that are not as lucky as what we are in that respect, to be able to just pull a game off the shelf anytime we want.
I know you guys are a great couple, and you can hear it in the way you guys talk about each other and spending time with each other. Would you say that gaming has enhanced your relationship, or not so much? You had that before you came to the world of gaming.
I think so, because I think that it bridged that gap of things to do together. Because before we gamed, like we're definitely not that couple that are attached at the hip. Like, I have different things that I like to do with my time than Howard. Howard's way more technically oriented. He'll spend a lot more time on his computers and stuff than I will, whereas I'm more physical. I like to get out and walk and bike and all that kind of stuff. So we do have these sides to us that are very different. And I think the gaming world has kind of bridged that gap a little bit, and it's kind of brought us not way closer emotionally, just in the time that we spend together, because we have more options of things, like even with types of games, because there will be times where Howard will think, oh, I kind of feel like playing a game, and I'll say, well, yeah, I do too, but I only want to play this type of game. Like, I'm not into playing a long game or campaign game. Or if we just, have a couple of short games or before dinner, or because I have to go out later, whatever. And so it's the variety helps as well.
Yeah,
that's great.
Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. We have quite a varied sort of spectrum of games, from the quick and easy, sort of 20-minute game of Splendor, right all the way through to one of the games I got this year was Etherfields, which is, it's going to take the rest of my life to probably play that game, right? But yeah, we have a broad spectrum.
But I think, yeah, you're right. I think it has enhanced the relationship, because we've just got so many fun outlets now with time spent together. There's variety in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that brings us to a listener question. We've got a question from a listener by the name of Chris C. from our Facebook community group. He wants to know, as a board game couple, has there been times where you've squabbled over a game that led to not talking for a time? These are real relationship problems, right? and games can enhance, but they can also bring up some emotions that maybe aren't so wonderful. Has that happened?
I am the first one to admit I did get quite crabby a few times with Howard, because I was getting tired of losing.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Now, was it always
I would spit my dummy out from time to time.
Was it always the same game, or was it just a lot of losses in a
row? No. I was not very good at playing board games in the beginning.
That's all right.
I think to be fair to Liane, though, I don't think that's much of a problem anymore, because she regularly kicks my butt now at board games. So I think I would just like to expand on that a little bit, actually. I think I know where Liane's coming from, and I think it's probably because at the beginning, when we first started playing games, I was definitely, like I say, more of that obsessed kind of character, and I wanted to know everything there was to know about board games. I was watching every single Dice Tower video and Rodney Smith Watch It Played videos. I was into everything. So when we got a game, I would introduce it to Liane, but by the time I was teaching her the rules, I knew everything about it. I knew all the strategies and
He threw me in the
how
deep
to play the game.
Right.
And and she's obviously just learning a game for the first time, and so obviously, more often than not, I would probably win. And then after a while, I think Liane kind of spoke up and said,
right.
I'm not sure how much fun this is, So I thought, okay, I should probably not take it easy, but just be more mindful of it,
so like it.
Because I really don't care about winning. Like I'm not that kind of person that plays games to win.
Yeah.
I think I've often had this expression. I've said, if everybody who's playing the game, if everybody stands up and leaves the table with a smile on the face, we've all won. That's the way I approach gaming and the social aspect of gaming. I don't care what the game is or who wins by how big of a margin. I want to try my best. I want to challenge myself to play the game to the best of my ability and do well. But if Myron beats me by 50 points or whatever, and Myron stands up and he's got a huge grin on his face, awesome. That's all I care about. We had fun and it was a good time well spent. That's my attitude to gaming and what
now
keeps me
you pre-answered the
engaged
question. I was going to ask you, I was like, well, how important is winning to you? Because I know that with my wife Anna, she plays to win, and so we're very different in that I don't normally play games with Anna alone, except for cooperative games, because so the way I play is I like to try to figure out the strategy, and I'm the kind of person, if I like break the game for everyone else, I just assume that everyone will be like, oh, all right, well, you won in the first round, congratulations. Because I'm not competitive.
Right.
And so that's a big blind spot. And so Anna's like, nope, I'm going to be playing my game, and I'm going to be watching how you're playing your game at the same time for the entire game. So you need to have enough energy to keep changing your strategies, which I do not, and she always wins.
Yeah, I think it's like we talked about earlier. It's like knowing your audience, right? I'm quite happy to play with people who just want to have a laugh and just fun, and maybe not take it too seriously. But I'm also totally into having a game with someone like Anna, who if she wants to go at it, and it's all about winning. Again, I love that challenge of okay, I'll give you a game. I'll see if I can. Game on. Yeah, exactly.
I love winning.
There you go.
But it's just so rare. And I think, it makes it feel so good when it finally happens.
Yeah. Well, actually, to be fair as well, one way we actually, as a couple, kind of got around that a little bit was through some cooperative games, because obviously I realized that, it's not going to be fun for her if I do just keep going down this path of getting a new game and kicking her butt and then moving on to another new game, kicking her butt. And, so then we started to introduce more cooperative games. And we really got into Pandemic Legacy. That was one game that we really enjoyed. And, but I think it just helped, Liane to get more comfortable with, gaming as well.
No,
I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Liane, but I think she could relax more knowing that it wasn't, a competition. It was kind of, we're working together, so to speak. But it also helped her to kind of understand, maybe my thought process or one of our other game friends, their thoughts in terms of how they approach a strategy and how, maybe we want to do this first before we do that, or not just jump into one particular move because it feels like a good move, but maybe we need to plan a couple of turns ahead. And I think she kind of gradually sort of picked up on those things, and now she
Kicking
can hold
his
her own
butt
with
all
anyone.
over the place.
She'll
hashtag love to win.
I think one of the best moments I had as a gamer was when she beat me aside. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
it's a pretty cool game, right? Like, I'm like, if you can beat me a size, then that's it. We're, now it's back to game on, right? Because
yeah, that sounds very similar to Sherry and I. Sherry, I would say Sherry likes deeper, more strategic kind of games. I like lighter, softer, family kind of weight games. And but I like them all, and we both like them all, and we play together quite a bit. But she will often pick up a game and be good at it right away and win. And she kind of has this reputation of all our friends and family. It's like, oh, if I can beat Sherry, then I've really done something good. And I always just feel good if I've beaten her. Like if she's come in third and I'm second, I'm fine. That's good. I beat Sherry. But other than that, I don't really care where I sit in the standings. Like I can be first or last or whatever. But as long as I'm ahead of Sherry. So my next question, I want to talk about the kids, because I think this subject of winning and losing is an important factor for gaming with kids too, and how you bring them into gaming, I guess, at what age, and how do you deal with teaching them to be a graceful winner and what's the opposite of a sore loser? A graceful loser and a graceful winner, something like that. Do you have any?
Well, definitely not a sore winner.
Definitely not a sore winner.
Yeah,
right.
That's true. Well, that's a good question. I mean, our 10-year-old, we introduced her to gaming about 3 years ago, I think, and she just kept beating us. Like she just we put a game of what was it, King of Tokyo, and she just kept beating everyone. She was like inherently really good at it.
We got the kids version of Ticket to Ride as well, Ticket Ride Journey, which is a great game for that sort of age, sort of, I don't know what, like 6 or 7, 8 to 10 or whatever. I think it's a great game for that sort of age range. And as soon as she got it, she just picked it up straight away, and she was kicking butt on that game. And I said to Liane one day, I said, I'm really trying, and I can't beat her. She had something like a 14-game win streak or something, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. And
so when she does lose, it is harder for her, right? Because she's so used to being the winner. But we really did have to teach her, like, when you don't win, it's okay. Like, you have to have fun either way, whether you think you're winning or, because you could see her tapping out if she knew she was going down, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, no, you can't just walk away now, honey. Like, you're invested.
Right.
But it's super important. I mean, we've got a unique situation because of Rhea being autistic that, I mean, she's getting better too, but it was tough for her, wasn't it, to get her to really wrap her head around losing. And I remember one of her teachers saying that too, and it's very common for kids on the spectrum to understand even the concept of not winning and that whole gaming aspect. But she's getting better at it. She's getting much better at it.
I've heard,
but it's
I've
important.
heard Rhea has a house rule for Uno. You guys have an interesting house rule?
That's right.
She's got a couple of them.
Yeah, so so lately she's been into Uno. Literally every night we have to have a couple of games of Uno.
But it is the Super Mario edition, which is very important to her, because that's the thing about her as well, is things need to be themed for her to really get into it.
Right.
So they have to do that at school too. Like all her math sheets have to have Super Mario characters on them for her to be engaged by it and that kind of thing. So you buy any game, if it's Super Mario, she'll play it.
Right, right.
So yeah.
Theme does matter.
Right.
See, it does. It does.
Yep.
But
yeah. But yeah, she does like to make up her own rules. Like, for example, in Uno, when you play a card, if you play the exact matching card on top of the one that was previously played, you have to shout out touchdown. Why?
No clue.
Why? I have no idea where it came from. But if you don't shout out touchdown, she'll get really upset.
I love it. We have
for sure. Rules. Yeah. And there's And there's another particular card where if that one appears, you have to yell "Go fish," which obviously "Go fish" has nothing to do with Uno, but in her mind, when this card shows up, you have to yell out "Go fish." So, but she loves it, and that's what makes her, passionate about wanting to play it every night. Is she wants that moment of being able to yell out "Go fish" when she sees this card, and from Liane and I's perspective, hey, if that's what it takes, then seeing her as happy as what she is playing that game, then it's priceless. Simple game of Uno, but it's such a smile on her face.
And
it's
something you can do.
I mean,
something you can do
just
as a
can't
family,
say no, right?
and
exactly.
It's a fun memory that you're creating.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. We played a
Yeah.
game called one of my funniest memories. We played a game called Ave Caesar. It's a very simple racing game. I think your chariot's racing around a track, and I think you have to do 2 or 3 laps. But the thing is, it has this unique rule: is every time you pass in front of the emperor, past the start line again, you have to say Ave Caesar. And if you don't, you're disqualified from winning. And one of our favorite, my favorite memories is another couple and Sherry and I playing this. And Sherry's got a wicked lead and she's killing us. And she goes around, she laps us and doesn't say Ave Caesar. And my friend and I, we look at each other with this look of, oh, did you notice that? And we didn't say anything. We just let it be. And then she gets all the way around again.
You gotta let 2 rounds.
Yeah, exactly. She gets all the way around and just kills us all and so happy. And she's like, I won. And my friend and I look at each other and we're like, nope. You didn't say Ave Caesar. She was like, yes, I did. I know I did. I'm sure I did. And we both said no because we looked at each other and we were like, shh, don't say nothing. So I think I would like playing with her. I would like playing with her. She would be fun to play.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she is.
Yeah, for sure.
What can you tell us about your collection? Why don't you start with that?
Well, I think, like I say, it's definitely evolved and definitely changed. I think we went through, as I kind of alluded to earlier, I think at the beginning it was very much about me sort of buying the games that I wanted to buy just because I thought they looked cool or they reminded me of a game I might have played from my childhood or something like that. Once I realized that nobody wanted to play those games, I then sort of shifted to, I kind of went through this phase of wanting at least one type of game in my collection from every sort of category of game, right? So I wanted a social deduction game. I wanted a party game. I wanted a worker placement game. I wanted an engine building game. So I kind of went through this phase of, again, like looking at the Dice Tower videos and things like that and sort of figuring out, okay, which games have the best reputations for those types of categories. And again, half of them, Liane didn't want to play, so they were kind of no good too. So then it kind of definitely then evolved into, okay, what do I think Liane's going to want to play? And then it sort of, I think that's the kind of circle of buying that we've kind of gone through with games. So I still indulge in a couple of games just for myself from time to time where I think this is a game that I just want to have in my collection, like one I mentioned earlier was Etherfields. Like I wasn't quite sure if Liane would want to play that game, but I just thought it looked beautiful. I love the idea of being able to play it solo if Liane didn't care about it, and I love the campaign aspect of it. The artwork is just amazing. So that was one I kind of thought I'm willing to invest a little bit of time and cash into that game because it was one that I
think that's a really important aspect of being in the board gaming and a part of the community that you mentioned there, Howard. So in the pre-show we talked about like Kickstarters, and there's an aspect. So most of the games that I own that are on my bookshelf, which aren't a lot, I bought them because I was like, I've met that designer. And so like Everdell. Okay. Chris introduced me to Everdell.
Right.
And the reason I love that game is so I have ADHD. And if I'm focusing on something too much and I'm not able to take a break, I dysregulate and I get very irritable. And essentially I believe that everyone at the table is out to get me. Right. And so in that game, no matter how long everyone else plays, I can finish my game in 20 minutes and then watch and enjoy.
Yeah.
And so I met the designer, I forget the designer of Everdell's name, at Gen Con in 2019. And I went up to him. I think his first name is James, but I'm not correct. I shook his hand and I said, "Thank you for creating a game like this, because I'm able to play in a way that is incredibly satisfying for me. I have never played a game like this before, and my understanding is that this is a unique thing where even if you're playing with multiple people, you can go through the entire thing and have your like at your own pace. I love games like that, and so like Kickstarter, investing in games, I have like a bunch of the upgrades, and because I believe in what they're doing, and there's an aspect of investing in the things that you want to be around later on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a great game. It's the designer. I had to look him up, James A. Wilson, and it's published by
James
Starling
A. Wilson.
Games.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a great game, and that is an unusual feature. The idea that everyone's turn can be different lengths, and Go ahead. What were you going to say, Leanne?
Oh, I was just going to say, I think we do have a larger collection of puzzly type games because that's where I gravitate to. So I'm very much into games where, you're fitting pieces together, or there's a design aspect to it, because I'm a very visual person. So Azul, like we have all of the Azuls and Sagrada and Cottage Garden and Barron Park, and anything to do with shapes and tiles and colors and pretty stuff like that. I don't think Howard would have half as many in his collection if it wasn't for me. So I do think we do have a lot of those types of games, because I do quite enjoy that.
But they're also some of the best games to bring out to new
Absolutely.
people, right? They're not too deep or challenging, or they're not going to last forever. Like we played Century Spice Road this afternoon. It took like 45 minutes. Karuba, that's another good one. Like
it's a great
our kids
game.
like that one actually.
Yeah,
and then we also tend to have. Sorry, we do tend to have a lot of the like Mysterium type games and Murder in Hong Kong, Deception, because we tend to really love the whodunits and those guesswork games as well. Yeah.
Chronicles of Crime. Actually, Chronicles of Crime was one of the first Kickstarters that I got. I think I'd got a couple before then, but I think they were more expansions. Whereas Chronicles of Crime, I think, was the first one that the first actual full game that I backed on Kickstarter. And recently just backed it again when they did the new Millennium series.
Cool.
So
great
system.
Quick little story. Howard and I think I'm very theatrical out of the two of us, since I used to work in the industry and was an actor for years. When we met, we actually, when we moved here, came up with a murder mystery night, and it went crazy. Like we went to town, like the invites and the costumes, and we staged the house, and people still people still talk about it, and they would say, "When are you doing the next one?" But it took a lot of work and a lot of money and time, and we love doing it and would love to do it again one day. But I think buying these games was a good way to simply keep up with the murder mystery without having to put all that effort into it. It's like you're still getting the fun of it, but it's a bit more low key.
Yeah. This murder mystery party, like we even went to the extent of a neighbor helped us to build an entrance. So as you walked in our front door of our house, there was a little porchway, and you were immediately in front of you greeted by this floor to ceiling doorway, which was all done up like a old brick style look to it. It was a black door, and it just had the little speakeasy, little slidey thing where your eyes poked her.
Awesome.
So as all our guests were arriving for the party, and of course everyone got dressed up in the thematic outfits and everything, but nobody knew this was happening. So as they walked in the house, everyone's jaw hit the floor because they were just
We put a
stunned that this
fake
much effort had gone into
door.
a fake doorway in a house, like,
I love it.
and I'd given everyone the password, like on the invitations. I'd said, the password is, whatever the password was, I
Juicy.
can't remember now, but so that, yeah, they had to say the password to be able to get in, right? So, and it was so good because it just immediately set the tone. So as soon as you walked in, you knew for the moment you stepped through that door, it was full on. You were 100% committed to this theme of this murder mystery party, and
Yeah.
everyone bought into it, didn't
Now
they?
I just
And it
need
was
to
just
know.
so cool.
No
Really
guests
cool.
were harmed during the murder mystery. I mean, I hope that's a fair assumption.
No guests were harmed. Actually, funnily enough, we didn't even know until the murder happened who was being killed, and it ended up being Howard.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds
Yeah.
great. That sounds like a lot of fun.
So that in a weird way,
Yeah, it was a good
I
party.
didn't even realize it till we retold the story that almost became the start of our real gaming sort of adventure.
Mhm.
Like it kind of went from there into this whole
Yeah.
board game lifestyle.
That's great.
Mhm. Yeah, a lot of the games I like in our collection, or the games I tend to enjoy playing the most, are very immersive games. Like I love the immersion of games. So I agree with what you said earlier about theme being important, but I can immerse myself into anything if I'm
Right.
given that opportunity to do so. Right? It's that's what I enjoy about games, is the immersion of the
Well, we
theme and
even
the setting
play
and what
music
it is you're
that's
trying
themed
to.
to board games now. Like if
Mhm.
we're playing Shakespeare, I will
Oh yeah.
put Renaissance music in, YouTube or wherever you will find music and
Yeah.
play it in the
Right.
Yeah.
background
Yeah.
because it just puts you
We just have
there.
it, yeah, just quiet in the background, just tinkering away in the background. But yeah, it's nice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The next part of what I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you guys is I wanted to do a series of sort of rapid fire questions, but maybe we'll start that with favorite game, and you can name more than one. Howard.
Oh. Do you know, I think this is such a hard question to answer because it honestly really depends on what
Mhm.
mood you're in, right? Because, if we've got 12 friends coming over for a party game night and you say to me, what's my favorite game? And, if someone says, pick a game, Howard, we're all ready to play a game. What's your favorite party game? Well, it's going to be a different answer to someone who comes over and says, we're in for a 6-hour marathon. We can,
Think of
we
it
got
this
nothing to
way.
do all day.
Yeah.
If you're
It's
going
a
to a
different
desert
game.
island,
That's
which
a good
one
way.
would you
What
grab?
game do you need?
I would grab Azul,
That's good.
definitely.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? But am I going to the island by
yeah.
myself? Am I going with you?
Okay,
Am I going with 10
gonna
other people?
change. I'm going to
Right?
change the
Because
question
again, it's
for you. I like Azul. That's a good choice, Liane. But for Howard, I completely
Thank you.
understand that. So what I will say is, you said immersion in the theme of the game is really important to you. So why don't you tell me one or two games that do that really, really well from your memory?
I think a couple I've already mentioned.
Okay.
Chronicles of Crime, to me, I think is very immersive. You can really get stuck into trying to figure out that mystery, solving the mystery. I love Ether Fields was the other one I mentioned. The puzzle aspect of trying to solve the riddles of Ether Fields, and more recently as well, we've also got Sleeping Gods,
Oh, okay.
the Red Raven game, Sleeping Gods, where you're sort of going around all the islands and looking for the the totems that you're looking for. Yeah, games like that. They're sort of the immersive games that I love, where where you can kind of just if the kids are off busy playing with their friends or whatever, and it's maybe just Liane and I and a couple of friends, and we've dedicated time to do that. We really enjoyed the first couple of campaigns of Time Stories. Like we'd make a day of it. We would say, we know this is going to be like a 8 or 9 hour game, so our friends would come over and they'd probably sleep over the night before, and in the morning we'd sort of arrange it for a school day, so we know we could get the kids packed off to school, get the dog walked in the morning, so it's like one of us would kind of walk the dog, one of us would go to McDonald's and get the breakfast. Leanne would be getting the kids ready for school, and in the meantime I'm setting up the game, so everyone had their job to do. Nice. And then we'd get, as soon as everyone's ready, you're stuck into this, sort of 8-hour marathon of time stories. And it's great, just a great experience. I think, that's the kind of thing I enjoy. But I think if I could only take one game to a desert island and it was just with, 2 or 3 other people, I would take Mechs versus Minions.
Wow.
I think that would probably go down as probably one of my, definitely in my top 5.
You could use it as a life raft if you needed to.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a beautiful game. It's so much fun as well. It's everyone always walks away from the table laughing at the end of that game because it's so funny in its ridiculousness of how you have to, complete your mission. We often joke about doing the Macarena. I don't know if you're familiar with Mechs versus Minions, but it's a programming game, so you get certain actions that you're able to do, but you have to do them in a particular order, and you're essentially controlling a bot, like a robot. So one card might be you can move forward 1 space. Another card might be you can turn 90 degrees to the right? But you have to arrange those cards in such an order to be able to achieve what it is that you're trying to achieve in that mission. But often it doesn't go the way you want it to be planned, so you end up turning left when you want to go right, and you end up turning 360 degrees or back the other way, and so we often joke about I'm just stuck here in the corner doing the Macarena. Just so I'm moving left and now I can go right, now I can go left and now I can go right,
so picking a favorite game is complicated. So like there are additional conditions. All right, okay, so like desert island, and then also like school night or no school night. I mean, it all matters, right?
Totally.
It
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I often joke it's one of the most controversial questions in the board game. What's your favorite game? Definitely. I can't just name one. You ask me tomorrow, it'll be a different one.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Like,
exactly.
People, okay, how dare you? Like, ask me which one.
Exactly. What is wrong with you? Do you not know anything?
Do you know, we should have thought about this in advance, and we should have done like a Mr. and Mrs. thing. Like, you should have asked us in advance, like, to name each other's, top 3 board games.
There you go, and you get a point
just
for each.
To see what we would have wrote down, and we could have guessed each other's. But
the Newlywed Game used to do
too
that,
late now,
right?
I
to
guess.
predict each other's answers. Yeah, and you get points or something.
Yeah.
All right, what was a game that you played as a kid that you really enjoyed?
So what's your favorite game, honey?
She said Azul was one she would take, right?
I think Azul, that and
Quedlinburg
are the 2 I think I would take to a desert island.
That's a good choice. Okay, back to rapid fire questions. Yeah, a game that you played as a kid that you really enjoyed.
Board games as kids. Yeah.
Totopoly.
Okay.
I would say Trouble.
Trouble. I think I know the answer to this one. Have you guys taken board games with you on vacation?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
We have a separate suitcase.
So we went to a friend's cottage a couple of years ago, and I've got a truck, and literally the whole of the back of the truck was board games. Like, the suitcases had to go on the back seat with the kids.
You were there for 3 days, probably. That's awesome.
Well, the weather forecast was bad, right? So we kind of figured that we're going to be stuck inside the whole time, and we're going to be looking for things to do. So let's just take as many games as possible, and
And you never know what you'll feel like. Name a game that you were attracted to just because of the artwork.
Mystic Vale.
Oh,
yeah. I think half of our collection is visual for me. I love Chakra for the art, the game Chakra.
So what I heard, Leanne, was yes, comma, if I had to choose one, Chakra.
Yeah.
All right. One more rapid fire one. What game causes the most analysis paralysis for you? This one might be
thematically on cue. Neither of us.
I know.
This one might be fun to have the other person answer.
I think Sagrada.
That's a good one.
I think you get to that moment in Sagrada where you kind of get yourself stuck, right, and you're trying to desperately figure it out. Calico is another one like that as well. I find,
and I feel like Karuba today for me was a bit like that.
I think that's a good choice.
You're just saying that because you played it today.
No,
but I felt like I kind of just lost the point in that game. I was just going in circles. I couldn't get where I wanted to go. Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. I was going to say, yeah, he can see all the board games. I can't. I'm in a different room.
Well, let me ask you another question.
Let
me ask you another question. Which question causes analysis paralysis? I think we have a winner here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we let you guys go, I know that, Howard, you've created your own version of a game using just a spreadsheet. Is that correct? Do I have that correct?
Oh, well, the spreadsheet was just the tool that I used to try to design something. And by no stretch of the imagination do I consider myself to be a board game designer, but Liane was kind of badgering me to give it a go at doing it, because I've always, when I was a child, I was really into the Olympics. I was obsessed with everything to do with the Olympics, and there isn't really too many board games out there that have like an athletics or Olympics kind of theme to it. And part of the process of designing what I designed, I kind of understand why that is now. Because I had this idea where my approach to the game was, and maybe someone who is a designer that's listening to this can do a far better job than I did, but feel free to steal the idea. What I wanted to do was approach it from being the manager of the Olympic team, right? So you're not necessarily the athletes, or but you're the guy that the person that's been hired by your country's government to put together a team that's going to go to the Olympics. And what I also wanted to do was combine it with everyone having separate win conditions. So if you decided to play the USA, for example, then you needed to get X number of gold medals, and you had to do really well. Whereas if I decided to be let's say Canada, maybe I needed only a couple of gold medals to satisfy my win condition, right? So it was a very ambitious project, and the way I sort of wanted to do this was I mentioned Totopoly earlier, and I got the idea from Totopoly. Totopoly is a horse racing game. In the first half of the game, you play the game on one side of the board. You're basically training your horses and getting some money and resources. And then the game flips. You flip the board over. You literally clear the table. You flip the entire board over to another side, and then you actually do the horse race. And I remember as a kid being fascinated with that idea of this double-sided board, that half the game was on one side and you flip the whole thing over, and then you play the second half on the other side. So I wanted to do this with the Olympics game, right? Was that I wanted to have this first half of the game was like a worker placement sort of engine building game. You'd be going out, hiring your athletes, training them, developing them in all the right areas of, athletic, whatever they need to do to be able to perform. And then the second half of the game was you actually went to the Olympics and did a bunch of different events.
Nice.
And my idea was that each event could be its own standalone pack, right? So almost like an expansion series. You'd pay like $10 to have, the boxing competition, and then you'd pay another $5 to have, the javelin or whatever, right? So you can add as many of these modules to it as you wanted and have as many events as you wanted. And I very, very quickly realized that what I actually did was design something like a 15-hour game.
Yes.
It all sounded great in theory, and it was like this childhood dream come true when I actually put something together. But I kept saying to Liane, like I said, I think I've designed a monster, and it's just not practically going to work very well.
It's a great idea.
But it was very impressive. That was very.
That's cool. I had misunderstood that. I thought it was a game that you had redesigned or rethemed. I didn't understand it was a game that you actually
no. It was
tried to
all from
design yourself.
scratch.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I love
Yeah.
video games, so I do have to
Yeah.
say, Howard, if you have, since you have the business rules and all identified and stuff like that, it may be a better, from a format perspective, to go digital with it.
Yeah.
But just, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I do. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think it's more of a video game than a board game. It's just too much of a, because, friends who helped me to play test it, would sort of say, well, can you streamline it? Can you take this away? Can you, instead of having the separate win conditions, can you do it this way? And I said, well, you could, but then it's not
Right.
the game that I wanted to design. It's like it kind of, it gets further and further away from the passion I had of wanting to develop this game, so but like I say, I've got zero experience of designing board games, and I'm sure other people far more intelligent than me would do a better job of it, but
Well,
it was fun to just give it a go, and to finally see something on the table that we could play was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I appreciate the people that did help to come and test it, and and sit there for a few hours and play it with me. It was, like I say, it was almost a bit of a childhood dream come true to actually see it and get played. And we played it once, and I was like, I am done. Like, I don't need to play this again. Like,
I need a nap
but
now.
thank you for indulging me. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cool. That sounds good. Sounds interesting. Now we'll see a copy of it at next Gen Con with somebody will hear this and come up with a simplified version that plays in 45 minutes or something.
Yeah. Oh, I'd love to get back to a convention again. Conventions is more of a more recent thing for us because, as we kind of got into gaming, it's obviously where you and I met. Chris was at Breakout. I'd never actually really considered going to a convention before, but I actually met a mutual friend of ours, Paige West, on Twitter back in the days, when Twitter used to be cool. I'd follow a few board game things and other things, and I don't know what brought us together. We ended up sort of back and forwards messaging each other, and we both realized we were going to Breakout, and we met there. And I was nervous as hell the first day because I didn't know anyone. I went on my own, and it was very intimidating to go, by myself on the first day. But I think, Paige introduced me to you and a couple of other people, and then from there, we got together and played a couple of games, and it was awesome. And then we went back the following year, and it was even better because then Liane came the second time, right? And
yeah, it was great.
We really enjoyed it. We sort of went all, the whole hog and got the hotel rooms and stayed a couple of nights, and
can't wait to do it again.
Yeah. So that was Breakout Toronto. That's one of our big local cons that happens once a year. And I know I've gotten you out to the Toronto Area Board Gaming Society. They do mini cons, one day, 9
it's
till
all
9.
mini Breakout, right?
Mini Breakout. It's a 1 day thing, whereas Breakout is 3 days.
Yeah.
And Toronto Area Board Game Society, they do 3 times a year, and that's a fun day too. But I can't wait till we can go out and actually see people around a table and laugh again. And it's coming.
Yes.
Well,
for sure.
And I guess I have one more follow-up question before we go. I think it would be remiss if we didn't hear a little bit more, Liane, about normally what I do at this point is I'll say, well, thank you guys for being on the show. It's been really wonderful. And, is there anywhere that people can reach you? And, you're welcome to do that. But I wanted to also just give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about Tarot with Liane and the metaphysical that you do. And if you want to give some contact information, please feel free to do that. Howard as well, you're welcome to, but whatever you guys feel like doing. We just want to say thank you guys so much for coming. And it's been a great conversation. We talked about a lot of
thanks for having
things.
us. I'm sure no one would probably care about what I do for a living, I think. I mean, if you do have financial problems, but just
I think it's
we can play a game too.
Exactly. I think it's excellent what you do, but it's a very specific need. I think that people, you're helping
for sure,
people who are in.
Well, why don't you at least tell them who you work for?
I work for a company called Hoyes, Michaelis and Associates.
Great.
So we're across all of Ontario. So yeah, it's been good. I've worked there since about 2007, I think. So they're a great company to work for, and yeah,
And
it's
if
a good job.
Awesome.
It's like you say, it's helping people, right?
Yeah, and if somebody finds themselves too far into debt or is having trouble making their payments, you're the person they should talk to.
For sure.
Excellent.
Yeah. But Leanne's tarot thing is way more interesting than that, so I'll let her tell you all about the tarot and the couple of Kickstarters she's backed recently, because they're kind of related to it as well.
Yeah, well, I've noticed personally, because I'm interested in that sort of thing a lot more. I guess games with that theme is starting to come out, so it's kind of exciting because I've backed 2 tarot-based board games. One's called Zodiac Wars and Sephiroth. So Zodiac Wars is maybe more the astrology angle to tarot, but it does come with an actual tarot deck that you can play with within the game. So I'm very excited.
Nice.
And so does Sephiroth. So you can use the tarot. You use the actual tarot cards within the game, but I think there's actually a way to play Sephiroth like on your own, like just a solo. So yeah, so I'm kind of excited. And then I've been backing a lot of Kickstarter tarot decks because I'm really passionate about supporting the independent artist. Eventually, my dream is to get my own deck out there. I've already sort of designed the actual meat and potatoes of the deck. It's more the visual I haven't approached yet. I know what I want. It's just it's almost 2 separate things. You really have to do a lot of the homework as to the symbolism and the meaning behind the deck first, and then you do the visual aspect of it. Because tarot, I mean, it is based on the Rider-Waite system, but there's so many people that are taking it to a different, not a different level, but have a different maybe approach to it.
Interpretation.
Yeah. So with my understanding and with my passion behind it, I think I'm really wanting to take tarot to a place of healing. I think there's so many people that approach it from a fortune-telling aspect, which is fun, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it's great going to psychic fairs and seeing all of the readers out there at their tables. And, I think there's so many people that love that aspect of it. But for me, I'm very passionate about the healing side of the craft. And I wanted to make sure that my approach to it was from that angle. So when I do finally get the deck off the ground, I want to teach, maybe have some classes behind how to work it so that you can work it from a place of healing. So
wow. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, I think it's time. Like, I think there's a lot of more and more people, let's just say, that are turning to the metaphysical field for healing and for support and for connection. The world obviously has been going through so many changes that I think I don't want to sound too cliche here, but we are awakening a little bit to this place in us that has a deeper calling and has the real connection to the spiritual piece within us, without it having anything to do with religion, just as a connection piece to ourselves. And I think more and more people want to know how to connect to that and use it.
Healing and coaching are so important right now. And you're absolutely right. There's an awakening, and not just with individuals, but like in the society in general. Like, if you talk about going to a coach, if you talk about going to a healer, people are more likely to ask, "Oh, so what are you doing with them?" Versus, just go to your doctor and get a prescription and get real help or whatever. And and it's like it's not like that anymore. People are like, "Okay, well, that system doesn't work for everyone. So what else?"
That's right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
The word you used one time and I thought was really good was people are looking inward. And I just thought, oh, that is so true.
Yeah.
That really is. I mean, whether you're a spiritual person or a religious person or not, more and more and more people are looking inward. I feel like this last year and a half of this pandemic has really sort of caused people to say,
I think a lot of people have been forced to, right?
Yeah, the pandemic's kind of forced us to, there's nowhere else to go. We were so distracted before. It was so easy to be distracted. And now when you shut everything down and you just are left sort of in your own environment, it really makes you look within. And just, I think a lot of people are making some pretty big decisions about happiness and fulfillment. And we don't take things for granted the same way. And we have a new perspective on things. So, yeah, I think that the times are changing a little bit. And I don't want to be cliche, but I really do think there is an awakening happening. So, this industry, I think, has a different need in our society. And I want to approach it from a place of not, I don't want to say counseling, but I want to say, I want to approach it from a place of connectedness, so that people feel like when they call me, instead of seeing someone that has a gift and can see into the future, it's not about that for me. It's about someone who really has connected to the way our soul is evolving through this human experience, and seeing if we can connect on that level and look at different approaches to the way we live our life. So
that sounds great. Where can people reach you?
Yeah.
They can email me at tarawithleanne@outlook.com, or they can find me on Facebook at Tara with Leanne, or Instagram, Tara with Leanne.
Great.
And we can set something up if they want to meet with me. I can meet with people virtually, or when the world opens up again, I do have a space. I have a couple of spaces I've been working out of, so we can set something up.
That's awesome. And that's it in Cambridge.
I'm in Cambridge. Yeah, I do have a little space I work out at a spiritual center in Ayr. It's like a little metaphysical store, and there's a couple of us that work out of there as well. So
cool.
You could do a video reading.
But that's, I did say virtually as well.
Yeah, virtually.
That's another benefit of the pandemic, is it's taught us all how to connect, right, on the World Wide Web. So my practice has really expanded. Like, I'm doing readings for people all over the place, which is really interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
awesome.
Yeah, thanks for asking about that. I mean, I'm very passionate about it, and I love meeting people. I love talking about stuff like this. I could go on forever.
I'm literally I'm holding my tongue, because I'm like, oh yeah. So from coaching, what we do is hold the container for people to be safe, and then open it up and present to them what's happening in their lives, and just there. And so I'm like, I want to have this conversation too, but I won't.
Yeah.
Well, we should.
You two would probably have a great time together. Actually,
I'll have to block off a whole day, you and me.
Me and Chris will play a game, and you guys can talk about.
Well, I want to play those two. I want to play those 2 Kickstarter games. They sounded awesome.
So do I. I can't wait to get them. They look gorgeous.
We'll let you know when they come.
For sure.
With tarot cards and everything. That's
for sure.
Fun.
Well, this has been awesome, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much. This has been a delight. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show and being so open and honest with your lives and your relationships. It's been fun.
Yeah, it has been.
It certainly has, yeah.
Thanks for listening to Board Game Chats with Chris and Myron. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, check out their website at boardgamechats.com, or drop them an email at boardgamechats@gmail.com. You can also find Board Game Chats on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.